Ooh, it's fresh. Haha. Watch your crazy cats and welcome to Dazzle Rebel Rides. Yes, watch it folks, and welcome to November on Dazzle Rebel Rides. It's a beautiful day which has been very rare. I've been meaning to get out throughout the whole of October and we've not really had the weather. Finally, right at the arse end of it, here we go. I mean, we've had so much rain. I mean, look at this across the road here. Ugh, horrible. There's going to be plenty of that, I reckon, dotted around the place. We've had torrential rain the last couple of days, but it's been pretty miserable throughout the whole of October, really. I have wanted to record a lot more. I've wanted to get out on the bike, but this is pretty much a fair weather bike for me. You know, I'm not going to go out purposely when it's wet. I don't mind cleaning it after getting a little bit of spray on it, but I'm not going to go out and purposely get soaked. Those days are long behind me. And before you start saying, oh, you're not a real biker, what is a real biker anyway? That's a discussion for another day, but I just need to let you know I did do 6 years where I didn't have a car. I gave up driving and only had a motorcycle for 6 years. So I spent 6 British winters commuting by bike. It wasn't the Indian, it was a Kawasaki ER6, which I have a video of coming up in a short while actually, probably sometime in December. But yeah, it took me through all winters, so I know what it's like to be an all-season biker, but after 6 years of doing it, sorry, biking for me now is just pleasure. And I take no pleasure whatsoever in purposely going out and getting wet and cold and miserable. It's not necessarily about getting wet. It's more the fact that once you get a little bit of water on the ground, people turn into absolute twats when it comes to driving. They don't notice bikers. Visibility is down for yourself as well as other drivers. But you get some people driving like there's no difference in conditions at all, so they speed everywhere, cause spray, they don't realise that the braking distances change. And you have the other side of it where people are overly cautious and end up holding people up when there's really no need to. And then you've got everyone else in between. So that is why I don't purposely go out when it's wet. So where was I after that very long intro? Oh yes, this is November, and going forward I am going to say it's not going to be long before I put the bike away for winter. So there's going to be a winterising your bike video coming up very, very soon, possibly next week. And then it'll just be a matter of, well, talking head footage and I suppose any archive footage I've got left over from the rest of this year. There are a few things that I haven't released yet, so they will be coming as well, that are from rides earlier on in the year. But we are heading very, very quickly into winter here in Great Britain. And in fact, today when this video comes out is the 5th of November, and it's a pretty significant date in UK history, as you're about to find out. In 1605, the UK was divided by two similar but ultimately juxtaposed forms of Christianity: the persecuted Catholics and the ruling Protestants. At the time, Europe was a volatile place, with assassinations of monarchs, witch hunts and revolutions being commonplace. Now, in modern times, when we dislike a political leader, we take to Facebook, Twitter and frantically type out a strongly worded open letter. In 1605, they didn't have the internet, so assassination plots were all the rage. What made the gunpowder plot different was its sheer scale and ambition. Should the plot have succeeded, then it is not unjustified to say that it would have been the 9/11 of its day. For this plot was not just to assassinate the King of England, James I, but the entire British Parliament by igniting 36 barrels of gunpowder hidden in the undercroft of the House of Lords. Now, there has been much speculation about exactly how much carnage this would have caused, but most experts do agree that even if a few of the barrels had gone off, then it would have succeeded in killing pretty much everybody in the building. If all of it had gone off, then the whole building would have been reduced to rubble. If successful, the power vacuum left by so many prominent deaths would have likely led to a Catholic monarch ascending the throne of England, which is exactly what the plotters were intending. However, in a series of events that is frankly too complex and intricate to explain in detail in just a few minutes, the plot was discovered by King James I. When searches of Parliament were made, Guy Fawkes, who was really more of a lackey tasked with igniting the fuse that would have detonated those 36 barrels of gunpowder, was discovered holding slow matches and torchwood not far from the hidden barrels. So even though the House of Lords wasn't, the gunpowder plot was blown. Now, the conspirators were rounded up and executed, as you'd expect, especially for those times. But even though at least 8 people were involved in the plot, most people only know the name Guy Fawkes, the man who was tasked with lighting the fuse. In January 1606, at the next sitting of Parliament, the observance of 5th of November Act 1605 was passed, making services and sermons commemorating the event an annual feature of UK life. The Act remained in force until 1859, but the commemorations continued regardless. Children began making effigies of Guy Fawkes to burn on a bonfire, with many school children making money for fireworks by asking for a penny for a guy, like these young folk. And like Matt Damon in this photo, after time travelling back to the 1920s. I remember doing it a couple of times in the 80s, but by the 90s it had pretty much gone out of fashion. Interestingly, because of this practice, the word guy became to mean oddly dressed man, and by the 20th century it was given to any male person. These days it's used for a collective noun for any group of people. These days, public firework displays are incredibly popular, as are countless private firework parties that seem to start from the middle of October and last until the middle of November. Now, I know most of these are people celebrating Diwali, but most of them are just a-holes who can't keep celebrations to 1 week, let alone 1 day. If you live in the UK, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. They go on far too long, don't they? So that was a little history lesson for those of you across the pond or elsewhere in the world who have no idea what bonfire night means to us here in the UK on the 5th of November. So if you see us letting off fireworks and burning guys, and it doesn't happen as much, it's not as big a thing anymore. It's more, people call it fireworks night now because people have fireworks going on for, well, seemingly months on ends, you know, which isn't great for pets, I have to say. You know, why not just keep it to the one night, guys, please? But yeah, so that is why if you see all these social media posts, because we are a global nation now, and you've probably got a lot of people on your social media feeds that are talking about fireworks night, bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night, whatever they decide to call it. You're now in the know. You now know why we do it. So moving rapidly on to my next topic, I'm going to switch to a talking head now because as I record this, I still don't know much about the actual bike. It is, of course, I'm going to talk about the Indian motorcycle Challenger. So here are my thoughts about it. Cue talking head. It's been 1 week since Indian finally launched their brand new Challenger model, and we've had a little bit of time to absorb and reflect. In videos, pictures and in posts, the comment section always has the haters. Some people aren't happy that it's air-cooled. Some people aren't happy that it isn't styled like it came from the 1950s. Some people aren't happy it's a fixed fairing. Some people aren't happy because they think it looks like a lot of other bikes. Some people aren't happy because they have a vested interest in Harley-Davidson.
And some people just aren't happy. Full stop. Period. That's it. They're just not happy. And that's okay. I'll repeat, that's okay, guys. It's okay to be unhappy. If you're unhappy that this bike wasn't designed specifically for you, then you have options. Lots of them. There are plenty of other motorcycles out there. Hundreds, thousands even. I'm sure with a little bit of searching, you will find your soulmate, your bosom buddy, your numero uno. Don't give up, it's out there. Maybe you want a bike that would do 200 miles an hour. Maybe you want a bike that will shake its moneymaker so hard that it gives you that warm, funny feeling between your thighs. Maybe you want this, maybe you want that. I am here to tell you to relax. Take a breath, calm down, and step away from the keyboard. I know it's hard, but it's okay to let go. The Challenger isn't for you. There, that feels a lot better now, doesn't it? But although it appears that the negativity is everywhere, it really isn't. As human beings, we are naturally drawn to see danger and therefore the hate more than the praise. And praise for the Challenger, there is. Lots of it. Lots and lots of it. When I started making this video, I was actively trying to find the negative comments, but it was actually difficult because most of what I found was incredibly positive, or at least sympathetic and understanding. Some people praise the boldness of Indian motorcycle, whilst others love the looks, though by far the majority of comments were talking about the performance. Now in 2019, 122 horses doesn't sound like very much in a motorcycle, neither really does a 128 pound-foot of torque. But when you're talking about the heavyweight touring sector, it is. What you have to remember, it's not all about peak figures, it's about those curves. On a big, heavy touring bike, you want lots of torque across the entire rev range. And that is what the Indian Challenger has, in spades. It's not about the peaks, it's about how long it lasts. But what about that fixed fairing? Why have Indian gone down that route? Well, fixing a fairing to the frame rather than the forks takes weight off the steering, potentially allowing for a much easier handling bike. It's nothing new. It's been around even longer than the Harley-Davidson Road Glide, much longer. But everyone seems to be getting hung up on that. Does anyone remember that Honda? You know, that, what was the name? It was a big touring bike that had a massive cult following and still does to this day. Yeah, the Gold Wing? Yeah, the Gold Wing. The Gold Wing has had a fixed fairing for longer than I've been on the planet, and I'm 37 by the way. Fixed fairings were already being installed on motorcycles in the 50s and 60s because they make sense. So what about the styling? Now, I love my Indian Chief Vintage. On looks alone, I would take it over pretty much any other motorcycle that's out there at the minute. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the Challenger. I actually really like the way the Challenger looks. For me, if I could, I would have both, and yet for most, myself included, it's not an either-or scenario. If you like the vintage look, then the Chief Vintage, Chieftain Classic and Roadmaster all come with that classy Indian style that we have come to recognise. There are bikes out there for you. If, however, you like a more modern looking machine, then Indian now cater for you too. There's the Springfield Dark Horse, Chieftain Limited and Dark Horse, Roadmaster Dark Horse, and now there's the Indian Challenger.
And there we go. They are my thoughts about the Indian Motorcycle Challenger. I will obviously update this once I get a chance to ride the thing. I mean, I'm really excited about riding it. And maybe you are too. Let me know in the comments. Next week I will probably be doing a winterising your motorcycle video. For now though, as always, if you like to ride, be sure to subscribe, smash that notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Bye.